It is the first time in this best of 7 in game 5 that Trap is not opening up with the Stargate. Instead, he's going to open up with a Twilight Council. Now this Stalker already got a couple of shots off on the Overlord, which means it's going to be hard maybe for Reynor to scout, but Reynor has also been kind of keen in trying to just run into the main base and trying to get a scout in that regard. With the Stalker already there, Overlord gets picked up. I mean, if Trap's game plan so far was make sure that this stays hidden, I think he's doing a pretty good job in it. But Reynor obviously does have excellent game sense, so maybe he's already picking up on something that we're not even aware of.
Usually Zerg players, when denied so successfully scouting, they do, well, they always, even when they get scouting, send those lings out. That if the coverage is perfect, we'll see an Oracle fly by before it's supposed to hit their mineral line. Now that's only if the Oracle's not proxy, to be fair, so it is still a lot of question marks, but actually even like Trap maybe trying to clear some of those up as he takes his third, or pretends to take his third. He's actually got 4 gateways, resonating graves, looking for a lot of aggression. Third nexus behind this, and Reynor not quite able to pick up on it yet. Still doesn't really see anything. Okay, yes, yeah, yep. Roachborn comes down.
There was one more Zergling running around, and that Zergling showed up right when the Adepts moved out of position. Reynor sees the additional Adepts being warped in. I wouldn't mind one Spinecrawler in a scenario like this, because I feel like Reynor was maybe a little bit later aware of this than he normally is. He's going to be a Spore Crawler instead. Maybe worried about the DT follow-up. A little bit confused about that one, Zombie Grub.
I think it is just a fear that he might be reading this wrong. Or yeah, DT follow-up. Trying to grab the Adepts before they have help does lend, I guess, 1 death. Reynor gets to say he took something while he prepares. There is a Dark Shrine following this up, so the Spore Crawler might come in handy. But first and foremost, don't let the Adepts into the actual mineral lines. They are looking to shade, really? Ooh, I don't know about this one. The Lings are on it, the Queens are responding, a War Prism to pick up 4, but that kind of ends the aggression.
Yep, I mean, we know that Trap normally is so good in keeping these Adepts alive for a long time, and then the War Prism shows up somewhere where the Zerg units are not positioned. Reynor, very satisfied with this defense, is going to immediately throw down 2 more Spore Crawlers, and that obviously makes a lot of sense, because if you know that you're in a good spot, you kind of ask yourself the question, how can this still go wrong? Well, one way to make all of this go up in vain is obviously taking a crap ton of damage against Dark Templars. Reynor will make damn sure that's not going to happen. He's got the Zerglings on the other side of the map too. Reynor is really on point so far. Even if he's down 7 workers, guys, the worker count is not always everything. This is still 3 bases against 2. And on top of that, it just feels like he's super ready for the follow-ups of Trap.
Right, it's going to be a case where Trap does not continue doing damage. Reynor does get to control the game a little bit and knows that he can go full into droning, and that's going to change the drone count real quick. And of course, he'll have that saturation. His third's already up and running, as a Zerga should. I mean, Trap's going to try and do some micro here with Stalkers and then adding in the DTs. There's a Spore Crawler on the front, but they're going to go into a Spore Crawler.
Put him a whole position on the ramp. This is something I do in some of my ladder games. It's like you create a force field that turns into one of these meat grinders. But yeah, I'm not sure what Trap was thinking here. Maybe hoping to somehow dive on top of a Spore. Well, yeah, that's another Dark Templar that does go down. Or, well, it's the first one, but it's just another Protoss unit that goes down. And now these units could be in a bit of a pickle too. Even though with the War Prism Micro, I guess Trap will keep them safe. I gotta say, out of all the openings so far, I think this is the least successful one for Trap.
Yes, definitely. And he's tried, a couple of tricky things, honestly, that I could see a lot of other Zerg players losing a couple Queens to, losing a handful of Roaches, being distracted and losing still like 4 drones. But Reynor just hasn't taken any damage and has droned to the extent that we were talking about. An early infestation pit, not just in time, but also drone count, leads me to believe that this could be one of the Swarm Host games. I mean, we keep saying that, but it really has become more so lately. Infestation pit equals Hive. But I mean, the only difference I've seen is that it's like, one's on like 55 to 60 drones, other one's up to 70. And well, now Reynor does have 70, so it is going to be that quick Hive again. Which it should just be totally unpunished too, which is the nice thing, Like you don't have to be aggressive as Reynor. You certainly don't have to do Swarm Host, so go for the great technology that Vipers usually are, they're not feedbacking you, and extend your lead.
War Prism could take some damage here. Thank you for bailing me out that zombie grub, where I'm like, yeah, could be Swarmos again. It's like, no, it's hype. It's always hype. And I'm like, damn it. Are we ever gonna see the Swarmos make a return, guys? But, yeah, these are obviously not ideal Swarm host games, especially not when the Blink Stalkers are out this early on. It's just, it feels like Reynor would take an unnecessary risk playing a strategy like that. I don't know what the Immortal's up to in the center of the map. Seems like Trap wasn't quite sure about that either. Almost rallied on creep. Still needs to be careful. This Immortal's left behind. No.
Immortal, please. He's like the scout. He doesn't really want to be. All right, there you go. Picks it up. I mean, it's not really going to be, I think, an opportunity to end the game here for Trap either way. So just at least keeping his unit retention going, getting his blink done, +1. Robotics Bay is on the way too. I mean, clearly this is a game that Trap can play out. It's not that terrible, but it is one where Reynor gets to do his thing so much faster than Trap. So we might see a lot less of that back and forth control that we saw in, was it first or second game? It's the first game, man.
Reynor just feels really on point so far in this game, even there having an Overseer ready, even though he had a Spore Crawler, but a single Dark Templar not just gonna sneak in there and get a couple swipes off on those drones. No, it feels like Reynor is kind of ready for everything that Trap has been trying to throw at him. Trap is gonna try to get lucky with the War Prism in the main base one more time, but Reynor is ready for this too. Has a couple of Zerglings, has a Spore Crawler, left a Roach behind. And there is a little Ling run by happening. It's not the biggest one, but I don't think too many Warpins are available. So this is actually gonna sting, and we could easily look at maybe 10, not 10, maybe 7 or 8 workers going down. It still hurts.
6 plus all the commotion, the stalkers need to kind of like live with their way out of there now and be controlled. Actually, I found Overseer too. But that was just actually one zealot, not on hold position. Like Trap is well aware of Lings possibly getting into the natural and just not quite prepared a couple times. And Reynor is moving on to Viper, Lurkers with upgrades, a bit faster on that +2. Trap, as I was saying, like you don't get the same back and forth. I'm controlling the game, now you're controlling the game. If you're in this situation as the Protoss, I do think that you have to kind of posture. You kind of have to puff yourself up and be like, yeah, please don't attack me anytime soon. But it is just like more so about getting into that late game air. So we see Stargates and Fleet Beacons, so at least a mothership.
Well, Spore Crawler is a bit out of position because he moved it towards the corner of his main, so this War Prism can just get in there. And good target firing here by Trap, finally finding some damage. But of course, 7 drones, 10 minutes, 11 minutes into a game and Reynor is close to maxing out is not as big of a deal as when Reynor is working with 45 drones. If you then lose 7, you're like, oh, that was like 20% of my economy almost that I just lost there. This is something that Reynor can deal with. He's got plenty of minerals in the bank. Trap already dropping those extra Stargates, right? He's got triple Stargate Fleet Beacon. But I have the feeling that this game could very well end before those units ever make an appearance in the battlefield. Because I don't think Reynor is going to wait much longer. He's got Lurker range, he's got Vipers with energy, he's got the range speed up, or the Lurker speed upgrade, the adaptive talents, more than halfway done. And I don't see any reason for Reynor not to just go pedal to the metal and truly push hard here.
Oh, yeah, actually not as awkward as I thought it was going to be. Trap, with some really good recalls in this entire series, does recall, I guess, correctly. But he does, you know, he wants to be able to stop the entire attack, and I feel like that's still ultimately what's coming down to, is that he can't stop the attack, really, not for very long, not enough to get a good number of carriers anyway. 3 are about to pop, but he's finding himself even awkwardly losing some very important disruptors. Lurkers already burrowing in front of your natural, going to take out that +1 air attack too. And Trap, I think, just needs, you know, he realizes he needs a huge risk. He's going to go for a bit of a base race.
Yeah, he's going to try to buy a lot of time, maybe get a couple of disruptors out from that robe in his natural. Can he land a big shot with the disruptor that just popped? As we have a big warp in. No, the disruptors is going to be rallied to the other side of the map. First carriers are going to eventually deal with these roaches, but obviously there's not detection everywhere. The supplies are close, but I definitely think that Trap is in a world of trouble. He's going to lose his disruptors, or at least 2 of them. One Nova does go off, but this Protoss army on creep, it just feels like it's in all sorts of trouble, and I don't see any way home for this army.
And what's really unfortunate is that recall was recently used, so if that was his plan, perhaps misjudging the timing, if he tried to, you know, actually escape, which he's currently trying to do, a lot of these units are still very slow. manages to escape with a good number off to the right side because the
Hive?
Zealots in the main are trying to kill the Hive, and they might just get it. Yep, there you go. And Trap, as I said, did evacuate with some army. And he has 4 bases. He's on 60 probes. That actually went pretty well for the Protoss.
Honestly sick, because it felt like if Trap was gonna try to defend there, he'd probably just die. And like, by the time he lose all his units, he has like 1 or 2 sad carriers show up, and then Reynor just fires up 20 Hydras and it's over. That was the best thing that Trap could have done. Is it good enough? Well, maybe not quite. He still needs to buy some more time. Unfortunately, a few units are misrallied, but there is more hope now than there was if he would have just defended, that's for sure. Can we land a big Nova? I think the answer is yes. My goodness, that is a big one. Pretty much, I don't want to say all the Hydras, but a lot of Hydras do go down. But there is no counter to these Vipers, and 3 carriers just get abducted immediately. Of course, these carriers don't have any upgrades because the Cybercore got sniped. I feel like Trap did as well as he could, but it seems like it's still not going to be good enough.
If somehow the Vipers weren't involved, I actually think this is the start of a real hold, comeback, maybe even victory for Trap. But with the Vipers, the carriers are easier to take out, and the Disruptors too. I mean, if that is the main issue, would also be abducted. 1 Viper is the only thing left. It's back here at home, so if Trap could pump out more units, basically, then we give him a chance, because we got ourselves, again, another bit of a base race. As Trap, not just with that Warp Prism, which wasn't cleaned up, by the way. Like, Hydras were in the main. It could have gone after it, I think. It warped in more Zealots, and the main army of Trap, the main ground army, I should say, once again, goes for the counterattack, and it's going to find only a measly number of Hydras. Clean that up. Reynor is going to back away, which means that Trap is going to have 4 carriers working on 6 and still has 2 pretty healthy bases mining.
Yep, now that blink obviously means these Stalkers can blink again. I don't know if Trap wants to recall, but you don't really want to lose all these Stalkers because your army is already so small. He's gonna blink again, but it does mean that a little bit Trap, but the carriers are gonna show up, as they're gonna provide some safety for these Stalkers. Carrier count is now at 4 again. We've got 2 more on the way. Did he ever rebuild the Cybercore? Yes, he did. I mean, obviously it's a hectic game, and I know Trap is not all that rich, but carriers gain so much power if you get upgrades. The 0-0 carriers, I'm just always afraid they won't get it done. The Warp Prism will finally get taken out, so that's very nice for Reynor, who still has a big army supply advantage, and he's still got 1 Viper, but 1 Viper is sometimes all you need.
It's gonna abduct 1, instantly take that carrier out. There's the second one. A blink perhaps to try and at least capture the Viper, but it didn't work out. Oracle even suiciding in. It does seem like things are finalizing right now. That Trap is going to lose the game, but he made what looked like a straight up loss even from the beginning. His build order, his opener did not work out. He made it look like a playable game for almost 16 minutes, but now at almost half the supply of Reynor, it does look like it is inevitable. Reynor is going to take the lead in this series.
And it definitely does seem so. Trap is going to try to fire up a Colossus, but obviously the Colossus doesn't have extended thermal lens yet, so that's not really going to be much of an answer. And in the end of the day, the Colossus will suffer the same fate as the carriers. They're just going to get abducted. Trap is really making this very annoying for Reynor. I feel like this is the kind of game where Reynor gets a bit tilted over, where even if he ends up winning, it's just like, oh, can you just stop, man? Like, can we just fight and get this over with? Like, it's kind of over, but Trap really did make it look a little bit close. It's just, yeah, the Vipers are so damn powerful, and carriers without their upgrades, they're just not quite the same. It's like Goku without charging up for an episode. So no power.
That's not good. If he doesn't charge up, he's pretty much useless.
Yeah, he's Krillin.
yeah. This seems to be the death push, as Trap is trying to do, I guess, some harassment with the carriers. It's kind of funny, very dangerous against Vipers. I mean, dangerous against anything, basically. These carriers are alone without upgrades, but it is the only thing he's really capable of doing. It started with the opener. Trap couldn't really get that same damage done to Reynor, no economy losses, no stop on that technology, and then couldn't stop the push. You know, the thing that started all of these potential base races was that Reynor just got all of his army right up into the natural of Trap. If it hadn't happened so quickly, maybe +1 is done, maybe he can warp in a couple extra units, take out the Vipers like he's trying so desperately to do here. Saves one of the carriers, loses another. Zealots were actually chopping away on the Hydras below that, but as cool as it is to see Trap really survive here, it seems still that Reynor's got enough to end this game.
Yeah, Reynor did lose his only Viper though, so that is a little bit problematic. And Trap save his carriers. Yes, he saves him again. He can't recall because he just recalled something else to the main. I think those were Stalkers. Now he's got Colossus showing up too. I'm just afraid that the Lurkers alone are powerful enough to run on top of this Protoss army, and that should very well be it for this one. I think Trap knows that that is a little too much Zerg. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The final Stalkers will fall. No more real mining. Trap think that maybe DTs. He's like, what if I just kill all the detection? I don't think that's gonna do it. The fighting spirit is really big with these two. Like even Reynor on Lightshade, I was really surprised with how long Reynor was able to stay in this game, in that game.